be here with you. And I'm going to say a few words now about the third verse of Siksastakam, which generally, pretty much, is the best known of the different verses in the Siksastakam. Yes, okay. But first of all, please repeat after me. Jai Jai Shri Chaitanya Jai Nityananda.
Jai Jai Shri Chaitanya Jai Nityananda.
Jai Advaita Chandra Jai Gaura Bhakta Vrinda.
Jai Advaita Chandra Jai Gaura Bhakta Vrinda.
Jai Jai Shri Chaitanya Jai Nityananda.
Jai Jai Shri Chaitanya Jai Nityananda.
Jai Advaita Chandra Jai Gaura Bhakta Vrinda.
Jai Advaita Chandra Jai Gaura Bhakta Vrinda.
Jai Jai Shri Chaitanya Jai Nityananda.
Jai Jai Shri Chaitanya Jai Nityananda.
Jai Advaita Chandra Jai Gaura Bhakta Vrinda.
Jai Advaita Chandra Jai Gaura Bhakta Vrinda.
Yes, so the third verse of Siksastakam. And I think at least so many of you know this and know it very well. Chunadapi sunichena, Turor eva sahishnuna, Amanina amadadena, Kirtaniya sada hari. Sometimes the second line, well, first line is Chunadapi sunichena. Sometimes the second line is recited as Turor api also. Doesn't really make a difference. And here is the translation, and as it appears in Srila Prabhupada's Chaitanya Charitamrita, one who thinks himself lower than the grass, who is more tolerant than a tree, and who does not expect personal honor, but is always prepared to give all respect to others, can very easily always chant the holy name of the Lord. Let us do it responsively. You can repeat after me. One who thinks himself lower than the grass,
One who thinks himself lower than the grass,
who is more tolerant than a tree,
who is more tolerant than a tree,
and who does not expect personal honor,
who does not expect personal honor,
but is always prepared to give all respect to others,
but is always prepared to give all respect to others,
can very easily always chant the holy name of the Lord.
can very easily always chant the holy name of the Lord.
Yes, right, so I'll say a few prayers. Namo Vishnuvadaya Krishna Prestaya Bhutale Shrimati Bhakti Vedanta Swami Nityanande Namaste Saraswati Deve Gauravani Prachayane Nirdashesha Shunyavani Pastutyadi Shatarade Vanchkam Trivias Chakripa Sindhubhya Evacha Paditana Bhavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha. Sri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Sri Advaita Gadadhar Srivas Adi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda. Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. So I'm going to elaborate a little bit on this verse. on the basis of the commentary given by Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur. Yes. But first of all, just let me mention that at least we were told Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati, Srila Prabhupada's spiritual master, he was once asked, is there like a special secret how to become Krishna conscious? Is there some special, just special thing there which we should get? And Srila Bhaktisiddhanta, when he answered, we're told, he leant forward like he's going to speak in a sort of confidential way. And he said, yes, I know the secret. Trinada pisa vichena, turmora pisa ishnina, amanina manadena, kirtaniya sadhari. So this verse is especially significant, really. Of course, all the verses, the whole Siksastakam, is very significant. These are the only verses that Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu himself really, that he wrote, he actually wrote. He spoke so many things, and you read Chaitanya Charitamrita, he spoke so many things. But in terms of things he actually recorded, basically it's the Siksastakam. And every verse in the Siksastakam is important. It is of extreme importance. But this one, the third verse, seems to get emphasized more than other verses. And, I think it's very important because it's very relevant. It's very relevant to us as aspiring practitioners, aspiring devotees, trying to become, like you could say, real devotees, or trying to progress and develop as devotees. Because, of course, we're all coming from material existence. And we all have our pasts. There's a saying, every sinner has his past. Oh, no. Every saint has his past. Every sinner has a future. That's a saying, I forget from who, but some sort of Western writer. So we all have our pasts, and you're all, all of you actually, particularly those of you who are really trying to practice on a daily, ongoing basis, you're all saintly people. You're all very saintly people. But in our efforts, our humble efforts to progress, we encounter different obstacles. And really speaking, those different obstacles are mainly within us. They're mainly within us. Different things left over from our material lives and old habits, left over from our previous lives, previous meaning before we came to Krishna consciousness. And so to deal with our minds and our desires, it's challenging. It's definitely challenging. And And the opposite of what this verse is stating, opposite things like pride and related things, arrogance, enviousness, we carry them into Krishna consciousness from our material lives. And not just this life, but we've been here for many, many lifetimes. And these things are so deeply ingrained. It's really it's like that. So, therefore, this particular verse is particularly relevant and practical for us. And to really make progress in dealing with these things, if we're able to make progress, then that is very significant and very wonderful and very helpful. So, yes, that's by way of introduction, really. Now let me just say some things, as I said, based on what Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur says mainly. I mean, not that we're sidestepping Srila Prabhupada, because Srila Prabhupada actually has said all the same things. So he says, the first thing he says is that the devotee who chants the name or the names offenselessly is adorned by 4 very special qualities. So these are, number 1, a natural meekness and humility because of total detachment from matter. Then, secondly, pure compassion, unencumbered by envy. I mean, a good idea to write these things down, actually. Because what I'm doing, I'm not trying to entertain you. This is meant to be educational, actually. Yes, and not just, joking around here and there. So a natural meekness and humility because of total detachment from matter, number 1. Pure compassion, unencumbered by envy. That's number 2. A spotless heart, free from mundane false prestige. That's number 3. And number 4, a proper, respectful attitude towards everyone. So, if you don't sort of gather anything else from what we're saying this evening just now, if you can just get those things, note them down, and then make a decision within yourself that you are going to really try to cultivate these things, like systematically and in practical and real ways, then that'll be excellent. That'll be extremely helpful. And sometimes you see, of course, there are devotees and there are devotees, if you know what I mean. I mean, every person and every devotee is an individual, and everyone has their own character from before, and also, depending on how long you've been involved in Krishna consciousness, some changes and so on have occurred due to experience and association in Krishna consciousness. But sometimes you see devotees who are very special. I mean, you really display humility. Let me tell you one example. It's a very practical example that I witnessed myself. It was in the 70s, sometime, I forget really, but sometime in the 70s, probably like 75, 76 actually, and we were doing book distribution. And we had a whole huge team of at least 30 devotees going out every single day and all day on the streets of England, Scotland, Ireland, and Wales, distributing Prabhupada's books. So our little party, we were in parties of 4, and there was on our party, there was a very humble devotee. He's still there in England. His name is Jagannath, disciple of Srila Prabhupada, of course, and very humble. And we were chanting our rounds early in the morning, and the driver was sitting at the steering wheel. Otherwise, the other 3 of us were just walking around chanting. And so the driver somehow got he felt the need to spit, like a sort of substantial spit, so to speak, out the window. So he turned and spat out the window. As that happened, this one very humble devotee I just mentioned just walked past and got spat in the face. Seriously. And it's just not very nice. But that devotee who got spat upon just immediately turned to the driver, who's in a bit of a state of shock, and said, "I'm sorry." Just spontaneously, he apologized. Actually didn't do anything wrong at all, 0. In fact, the driver was just a bit, thoughtless and crude. But that devotee just came out, "Oh, sorry." So we need to develop new habits. There's a saying, old habits die hard, which is very true. And Krishna consciousness means or includes cultivating new habits. Like, for example, practically the first thing, getting up early in the morning, as opposed to whenever people get up, 7 o'clock or something. But to get up, Prabhupada really liked it if devotees got up before 4. In fact, it's said that one devotee asked Srila Prabhupada, "Is there a valid excuse for not attending Mangal Arati? An acceptable reason for not coming to Mangal Arati?" You might say, "Well, we had a very late night, we had a program or something." But anyway, this question was placed. Is there an acceptable excuse for not coming to Mangal Arati? And we are told, Prabhupada said yes, death. But anyway, these 4 things, let me just repeat them. A natural meekness and humility because of total detachment from matter. I mean, that's very interesting, isn't it? It's not just a natural meekness and humility, but it's a natural meekness and humility because of total detachment from matter. In other words, being attached to matter, to this material world, name and fame and material sense enjoyment. These are deeply ingrained. But here, what's being presented is that, sort of in reverse, if we're not detached from matter, at best it will be more or much more difficult to develop a natural meekness and humility. That is the way he's putting it. Otherwise he'd just say, 4 very special qualities. First one, a natural meekness and humility. But these things are connected. Our meekness and humility is connected with to what degree we're detached from matter, material enjoyment, and all these things. Then the second one, what was the second one? Anyway, the second one was pure compassion. But he didn't just leave it at that. Pure compassion, unencumbered by envy. And because envy is, at least the way he's presenting it, envy is like a natural obstacle to becoming compassionate. Yeah. So think about that. And then the third one, a spotless heart, pure heart, free from mundane false prestige. And then the fourth one, a proper, respectful attitude towards everyone. One devotee wrote to me, would you believe, this morning, from Europe, somewhere in Europe, saying that our temple president, no, he's not so good, I'm not very happy with him. Because he told us the other day, what he said? That we can learn some things from the materialistic people. Anyway, let me leave that with you. But, in certain respects, we certainly can. And we should be open like that to learn. Yes. So a proper, respectful attitude towards everyone. So the thing is, now this is Siksastakam, and the whole idea is, this is all about chanting. The foundation, the roots of all of this is about chanting. So Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur says, when the holy name, the full embodiment of the transcendental rasas, appears in the sadhaka's heart, his attitude of mind is transformed. And it's not just men, his attitude of mind can also be her attitude of mind, for sure. So the attitude of mind is transformed, and the devotee thinks, I am constitutionally an infinitesimal eternal servitor of Lord Krishna. I have no real need for materialism, but alas, because of my estrangement from Krishna's lotus feet, I find myself in my present predicament. Estrangement means, I've been separated from and sort of like removed from, like that. So, being bound to the grinding wheel of repeated birth and death, I am suffering untold miseries. So now the thing is, we're to develop humility like this, these four particular sort of features of humility. This is Lord Chaitanya's not just recommendation, but direction. This is what we're meant to do. But it's a bit difficult for us because we're prone to be a little proud. You know, there's the saying, a pauper is proud of his penny. And even sometimes people become proud of how humble they are. So, it definitely happens. And it really definitely happens. But then we encounter, I mentioned that one incident with the devotee in England, the book distributor. But what about what Srila Krishnadas Kaviraj Goswami says in, if I remember correctly, the beginning, right at the beginning of Vajra Leela, it's somewhere around there. Anyway, it's in Chaitanya Charitamrita. He says, I am lower than the worm in stool. If anyone simply repeats my name, they become sinful. Now, what do you think of that? Do you feel like that? I don't. Frankly, just being straightforward and honest. But it's not just some sort of poetic words or artistic expression. He's actually feeling like that. I remember when I just joined the temple in 1973 in London, there was a small group of us, new boys. There was like maybe five of us who had joined within the last couple of months, moved into the temple. That's already pretty good, isn't it? We should get more devotees to move into the temple. So anyway, we would gather, maybe not every night, but 3-4 nights a week we'd gather in the evening and discuss how it's going. And we would think of things like special things we wanted to do. And one day we thought, yeah, we should make a special effort to become humble. So we should pray to Krishna. Please help me to become humble. Please help me please help me by showing me what is wrong with me. Show me so I can see it. And then it becomes concrete and it's not sort of airy-fairy at all. And I remember, so we tried like that. It was an interesting little exercise. But one of the boys came back, maybe the next night or the night after, and he said, you know, Krishna was showing me so many things that are wrong with me. I had to stop praying to him because I just couldn't take it any longer. But you know, seriously, I mean, he was serious. But really, practically, I have a suggestion. If you want to try and develop humility more, shall we say more, I mean, you already have some, but if you want to develop some, I can suggest a prayer. I think it's a reasonable type of prayer. You might want to amend it to some degree in terms of your own situation. But I have recommended to a number of devotees to pray as follows, that my dear Lord Krishna, I know I'm a fool. But the problem is I'm such a fool that I cannot see how much of a fool I am. So Krishna, could you please help me? I really want to develop actual humility, not just, some lip service, oh, I'm the most fallen. I really want to develop some humility. So Krishna, could you please show me, just reveal to me certain things which are wrong with me, which I have not understood, so I can actually become humble. Because, becoming humble, it has to be real, that you actually see yourself. Like Krishnadas Kaviraj Goswami, it's not that he's just saying it, that he actually feels he's lower than the worm and stool. That is just extremely low. But he's actually seeing himself like that. And he's actually feeling, if people just happen to hear my name, they'll become degraded. So he really thinks like that. So in order for us to actually develop humility, I'm sorry to say, you could say, I'm also not sorry to say, but the fact is, we are going to have to see ourselves more clearly than we see ourselves today. 28th of December, 2025. It's actually necessary. It really is necessary. Otherwise, how are you going to feel humble if you've got nothing to be humble about? You've got to have something to be humble about. Otherwise, it's just words. Really. So we do need some revelations to come our way from our merciful Supreme Personality of Godhead about what's wrong with us. And we'll find that there are things wrong with us that we didn't know about. Not only didn't know about, maybe we never dreamt were wrong with us. But actually, it's a fact. Yeah. So anyway, let's carry on here. Now, Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur, he says, the sadhaka meekly, humbly embraces yukta vairagya. Yukta vairagya means the practice of utilizing generally material things in the service of the Lord. You may have possibly seen a photo of Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati. And of course it's from way back, like probably it must be the 1930s, sitting in this old British limousine. And by that I mean, big car. Or as we say in Chatsworth, you know what we say? Big, lardy car. And I don't know what it was, if it was a Rolls Royce or whatever it was, but it was a genuine lardy car. But he was sitting there in the car. So yukta vairagya means to use things, not just for the sake of using them, but when it's really practical and useful and helpful, to use things in the service of the Lord, which otherwise are material. So he says here, now by the grace of my spiritual master and the Vaishnavas, I have come to realize that only by devotional service to the Supreme Lord can I find release from the distresses of material existence. be reinstated in my constitutional position, regain my spiritual identity, and attain love of God. Yes, but as long as I'm not freed from the chains of material bondage, I'm obliged to embrace the path of yukta vairagya, renunciation by actively engaging the senses in the Lord's service. Yes. So let me just go on a little further here. Let's see. So he talks about, the verse itself says, lower than the straw in the street, lower than the straw, lower than the grass is how it's translated in Chaitanya Charitamrita. And what is straw is just grass, dry grass. So he says, a dead straw in the street is simply matter. Accordingly, its ego or identity naturally corresponds to its factual existence. Did you get that? The English isn't too difficult. So its ego, a straw, a dead straw in the street. Its ego or its identity. Ego is a Latin word. It means I am. Yeah, that's sort of the classic, basic meaning of what is ego. I am what I am. Yes, so its ego or identity naturally corresponds to its factual existence. Did you get that? It's just a dead straw. So its ego, its sense of who I am, corresponds with that. Yeah. It doesn't think, well, actually, I'm a very nice straw in the street. I'm a colorful straw in the street. No, because the straw in the street is just a dead straw. Yes, for a straw is but a straw. But my present ego is a hankara, made up of gross and subtle coverings. It does not tally with my original spiritual self. The straw's ego is factual, but my material ego is unreal. Therefore, it is only correct that I become more humble than the straw in the street. So that's the first thing. That's a comment on the first point of the four. Then the next point is about compassion and not being envious, if you remember. So he says, well, okay, let me just read this first. The purport of the expression Torora Pisishnila, more tolerant than a tree, is as follows. The tree is so tolerant that it cannot even neglect to offer its cooling shade and succulent fruits to the very person who is cutting it down. Talk about not being envious. Yeah. Like Srila Sanatana Goswami, he got a skin disease and it became so extremely bad. There were little worms and little creatures like that who were in the wounds. And sometimes they would fall out and he would put them back on the wound. What can you say? Except Hare Krishna. So this is the idea here, that the tree is not envious that the person is cutting it down. Look at this nasty rascal. I don't know, what can I do? If he cuts me down, I'm going to fall on top of him and crush him. Maybe something like that. Not thinking like that at all. But in fact, as Srila Bhakti Vinod says, the tree cannot stop offering cooling shade and succulent fruits to the person who's cutting it down. So the devotee of Lord Krishna is even more kind because he's compassionate to everyone, just everyone, friend or foe, desiring only their best. So the thing is, if you chant nicely, if you really chant nicely, means if you really, really chant nicely, basically without offenses, then you will find that it just happens, that your mind, your heart, becomes overwhelmed with thoughts for the well-being of others. This just happens if you chant nicely. Because developing these qualities helps you chant nicely. And if you chant nicely, that helps you develop these qualities. They all work together. Yes, so like this. He thinks, look at these people. I see not the slightest indication that they're disgusted with this futile material existence. They're being slowly strangled by the noose of their unlimited desires for sense gratification. They spend their valuable time busying themselves in useless affairs of karma and jnana. How can these persons be made interested in self-realization? Bhaktivinoda Thakur says, in treating the Lord in this manner, the devotee's heart becomes flooded with spiritual emotions. Now, I believe I heard someone blowing the conch. Is it my belief correct? What should I do? Should I stop? Let me just conclude quickly. Shri Shri Jagannath Bhakti Sudhanta Devi Shri Shri Matai. So the third one is that the sadhaka's heart is spotlessly free of prestige. The Sanskrit term is amani. That's the third quality. Yeah. The third quality of the heart of the devotee whose chanting is decorated with offenselessness. His heart is spotlessly free from mundane ego and false prestige. Because after all, when you consider we're all spirit souls, we're all, each one of us, 1/10,000th the size of the tip of a hair. What have we got to be proud of? Our clunky material bodies. Wait till you're clunky. I mean, even when you're young, you don't know anything. You've got a clunky material body. But wait till you're old. Gee whiz. Oh my gosh. It's just amazing. The clunkiness is multiplied. Yeah. So, anyway, so the devotee must take care to avoid becoming proud. Krishna has given us certain abilities. I mean, many of you have got university degrees, means you've got some ability, but some intelligence. But where did it come from? It came from Krishna. Of course, we're prone to think, I'm intelligent, therefore I got, honors. I got, come Lord, pat me on the back. Yes, Aren't I great? But you just went out 10,000 the size of the tip of a hair. The fact that you got some intelligence at your disposal is just lent to you by Krishna. That's all. And as you become older, you find you forget a lot of things that you learned. Yeah. As you become old, you become expert at forgetting. Really accomplished at forgetting all sorts of things. Yeah. So, Bhaktivinoda Thakur says that what about the pride that may follow your subduing false designations, becoming free from the idea that I'm this body and, I'm intelligent and so on and so forth. In spite of his being highly respected, the devotee who demonstrates tolerance, humility, and a pure heart is a fit candidate to chant purely. He will take care to avoid becoming proud of being honored as a Brahmin or as a sannyasi. Wait till you become sannyasis, man. The opportunity to become proud is really great. You can really become proud. Yeah. He concentrates on the lotus feet of Lord Krishna and chants his holy name. And then the fourth one is the sadhaka, offers all respect to others. Manada, amanina, that's false prestige. Manada means to offer all respect to others. This is the fourth symptom of a devotee who chants without offenses. So the thing is, we have to understand, in order to develop this consciousness or begin to, we have to understand and accept that all living entities are Krishna's eternal servants. And in this way, we won't be envious or spiteful towards anyone. Yes. So like this, even amongst devotees, Srila Prabhupada sometimes talk about how some people are like flies. In dealing with others, they focus on the bad things. Because everyone's got shortcomings, particularly the materialists. Yes, so they focus like a fly on the dirty things. Whereas a bee, a honeybee, Prabhupada gave this example, honeybee is really attracted to sweet things, the nectar in the flowers, and then from it produces honey. So a materialistic person, or shall we say a person who's not really qualified in this regard, becomes expert at seeing the faults of others and expert at seeing the qualifications in himself or herself. In fact, Srila Bhaktisiddhanta elsewhere says that this type of person becomes so expert at seeing qualities, good qualities in himself or herself, he can see them, even though they don't exist. Talk about X-ray vision or something like that. Yeah, that's a special type of expertise. Whereas the devotee becomes expert, particularly amongst the devotees, but also amongst the non-devotees, but particularly, and it's really important amongst the devotees, to see the qualities of the devotees, and expert at seeing the faults in himself or herself. This is how it works. So again, we have to pray to Krishna to help us like this. And we have to make the effort when we're observing the devotees, associating with the devotees, not to really emphasize, put emphasis on their faults, but really appreciate the good qualities, the good services they do. So like this, we can cultivate this mood that Lord Chaitanya is talking about. Hare Krishna. Srila Prabhupada ki Jai. Shri Jagannath